very minimal. Last night we had a maximum of 10 people on YouTube.
Okay, so it looks like you're good to go.
1 second, 1 second. Yep, it's just about redirecting to YouTube. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess we're good.
All right, I'm going to get started. Good luck, everyone, with answering your questions. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So welcome to all of our grade 8 students and families. We're just going to take a few moments to wait for everyone to log onto the webinar. We'll get started shortly. Thank you for your patience. We'll just take a few moments and wait for everyone to join us. Hello to our grade 8 families and grade 8 students. We're just waiting a moment for all of the families to join in, and we will get started in 2 minutes. There's okay. Georgia, do you think we're ready to get started?
I do, actually.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out. We have almost 1,000 people out this evening to come and learn a little bit about the transition to high school. Tonight, myself and our guests will be talking about the top 10 tips and considerations for the transitions to high school. If we can move to the next slide. Before we begin, we're going to do our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and the Inuit peoples. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the team that has put together tonight's presentation. Our two associate directors, Andrew Gold, who will speak with you later, and Karen Faulkner, both have been instrumental in their support for tonight's presentation. Dr. Renee Rawlings is our Head of Guidance and Career Development for the TDSB. And my name is Georgia Gallagher. I'm a retired secondary principal from the TDSB, and I'm back helping out during the pandemic. So thank you so much. I also want to recognize three of our program coordinators who are present today. Jason Toe, who is responsible for secondary math and academic pathways, Pat Davies, e-learning and virtual school student support, and Kirsten Johnson, who is our French as a second language and classical and international languages program coordinator. And then we also have today just a ton of our secondary school guidance counselors from both Learning Center 1 and Learning Center 4. And you can see on the list that we have lots of different schools represented this evening. The school that you may be interested in attending may not be here this evening, and that's okay, because this is a general overall presentation to help out families with, a big overview of transitioning to high school. We have our counselors in the background answering questions that you may pose, and you can pose them through the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. One of the things that we would ask, however, is throughout our presentation, we likely are going to answer your question before you type it in. So we would ask that you perhaps listen to the presentation from the get-go, and then if things surface that you're not sure of, add those as we go along. So thank you so much. And I'm going to pass things on to Dr. Rawlings in just one moment. But just before I do, I want to just extend our appreciation for you coming out tonight. It is it can be a daunting and overwhelming prospect to figure out, what school to go to, because here in Toronto, our families have many, many choices. You, of course, have your homeschool, which is within your residential neighborhood, but we also have a number of alternative programs, specialized schools that focus in on specific aspects of education. And it is a time when a lot of thinking has to take place and a lot of decision making has to take place so that your child ends up where they're best suited and where they're going to thrive. And that is number one important. Doesn't matter at all whatsoever where you might, find a school on a ranking list. What is most important is that your child feels that they can be successful in the school that they choose. Tonight's presentation is meant to supplement the virtual open houses that you're attending for all of the secondary schools and the work that is being done in the elementary school. So this is not replacing that. This is just an extra little bit as we are, working toward improving our communication, especially during the time of pandemic, and things are stressful for everybody all around. So we just thought we would try this out. We're thrilled. We had, 1,500 parents out yesterday, and we'll have similar numbers, it would seem, this evening as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Rawlings, and she's going to take it from here.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. And so we're going to get started with our top 10 tips and consideration for your transition to high school. And the first question that families often have is, what is your homeschool and how to find it? Well, we've updated the TDSB site to help families search schools. To find your school, simply go to the TDSB site, click Find Your School from the top menu, or you can type the link on the screen. What you can see here is that you can search by address, by school name, and by program. So of course you will search by address and click on by address, type your street, and the site will inform you of your designated school based on your address. This is known as your home school. You have the option, of course, to search for other schools based on program, which you may have done if you are interested in any of the specialized programs in our school. Or in our board, I should say. The second question that we often get is around optional attendance. So we're going to take some time to talk about optional attendance in the TDSB. I'm going to answer a few questions such as what specialized programs we have, what alternative schools do we have, how does the extended French and French immersion pathway work, applying to specialized schools, applying to regular schools based on optional attendance, and which schools are closed to optional attendance. Just so you know, students have the opportunity to access schools outside of the school that's designated to serve your residential area by applying on optional attendance. Acceptance at these schools is subject to space availability and program suitability. Students can apply to 2 specialized programs and 2 regular programs through optional attendance. On the screen are the specialized programs in our school board. As you can see, we have some programs in the areas of art, athletics, technology, leadership, and IB. I'll give you a moment to take a look. Now you can search for these programs by program, as I showed you before in the Find Your School option. So each specialized program has its own admission and application process and deadlines. Some of these deadlines may have already passed, but an application process could include an audition, interview, exam, portfolio, a tryout. And in order to find out what the details are for a particular school or particular program's admission and application process, you should visit the website, connect with the school, or attend their open house. And some of those have already happened. So in our board, we have, of course, French immersion and extended French. Students qualify for the Certificate of Bilingual Studies in French Immersion upon the completion of 10 credits in French. Students qualify for the Certificate of Bilingual Studies in Extended French upon the completion of 7 credits in French. And so you may continue with your French Immersion or Extended French program at your designated pathway school. The link on the page will take you to find out what your designated pathway French secondary school is. Students who've moved into a new area that would give you a new French immersion or extended French pathway school can transfer there without optional attendance. It will become your newly designated French immersion or extended French secondary school. But if you'd like to attend a French immersion or extended French secondary school that is not in your designated pathway, you would have to apply to that school using optional attendance. So the next question, of course, becomes which French immersion and extended French secondary schools are closed to optional attendance? And as you can see on the screen, there are schools that are closed for French immersion and extended French. I'll give you a moment to take a look. In our school board, we do have a series of schools that are closed to optional attendance. Today's presentation is for Learning Center 1 and 4, so I'll just highlight those for you. Lawrence Park, Leaside, Mark Garneau, North Toronto, York Mills, Humberside, Harvard, Malvern, and Riverdale are all closed to optional attendance. So we're so proud to have so many alternative schools in our board. Alternative schools are safe, highly engaged, smaller school environments. They use non-traditional hands-on approaches to learning. Each school has a distinct identity and focus, such as democratic education, holistic learning, physical art, mindful living, entrepreneurship, social justice, community outreach, and more. These schools are ideal for students seeking an alternative to mainstream education and who want to take an active role in their own learning. TDSB alternative schools are open and free to any resident of Toronto. Space in alternative schools is limited and students can apply to attend on optional attendance. The application process is different for each alternative school. On the screen are our secondary optional attendance key dates. January 29th is when optional attendance forms are due at the secondary school. Please note that the optional attendance forms this year are fillable, and so you can click on the link to get the optional attendance forms. You can fill it out by typing it, and then you can email it to your elementary principal. For students who are in virtual elementary school, you'll be emailing your optional attendance form to your home elementary school, your bricks and mortar, the physical building where you were last year likely, and that principal will be the one who signs your optional attendance form and keeps track of your optional attendance applications. Now this year, we are allowing optional attendance forms to be faxed, scanned, and emailed. So you have two options. You can send it to the elementary principal and they can certainly send it to the secondary school on your behalf, or you can collect it after they've signed it and take it to the secondary school. However, you should connect with the secondary school to find out how they are receiving optional attendance forms. Some have drop boxes, some will have hours where you can drop it off or a particular place where you could drop it off. So please connect with the secondary school to find out how you would bring the optional attendance form directly to them. So back to our key dates. The first week of February is when an optional attendance lottery will be held if required. And that's when schools have limited space for all of the people who have applied through optional attendance, and so they have to host a lottery. On February 12th is the deadline where you will hear from schools about the status of your optional attendance application request. So you'd find out if you got in to the school or not. On February 26th is the deadline for you to submit your courses for whichever school it is that you attend to, including that for optional attendance. So I'll just take a brief moment to just talk about what that might look like. I know that in our last session, people have asked about the timelines and that if course selection opens very early in January, you may not hear from a school until a little bit later. In my blueprint, which we'll talk about shortly, you'll have the opportunity to select courses at any high school in the Toronto District School Board. So we would encourage you to, for sure, select courses at your home school, but you can also select courses for any school you've applied to under optional attendance. It won't become your actual course selection until you've been registered at the school, but it is fun to just see what schools have to offer. And of course, it would be important that you select courses for all the schools where you have submitted an optional attendance application. And that way, if you get into the school and once you've accepted that offer, it would become your course, your actual course selection and potentially your timetable. So I'm going to pass this over to Georgia Gallagher to continue with the presentation on to number 3, grade 9 course selections.
Thanks so much, Renee. And I just want to quickly answer a couple of questions that came up in the Q&A just about technical school that shows up within your home school. So when you go into, Find My School on the TDSB website and you put in your residential address, it often will show you 2 different schools. It will show you a regular program school and a technical program school. And I'll use the example, just say you live on Glen Lake Avenue and you type in your address on Glen Lake, it will show 2 schools there for you. One would be Humberside, the other one would be Western Tech. You have a choice to attend either of those schools. You do not need to fill out an optional attendance form for the designated technical school that's within your area. And that should answer quite a few of those questions that came up regarding that. All of the technical schools, they're technical and commercial schools, also have all of the same academic courses that you would find in the regular school, but what they have in addition to that are technical pathways, whether that would be auto, whether that's robotics, you name it, they have it. So that's a consideration as well. So I want to talk a little bit about your grade 9 course selections that will be taking place. In September, the TDSB will be fully implemented in our academic pathways path. We started this initiative many, many years ago, and that was to ensure that every student who is a TDSB student has every opportunity available to them post-secondary, and they're not limited by what they choose in grade 9. So we've been working with our staff, with our schools, to ensure that students entering into grade 9 will be selecting academic level courses, and that we have done our professional learning to ensure that we're ready to support your child as they make those choices. So for academic pathways, previously, and you may have already families, students who started high school, we, for geography, English, math, science, and French, there was a previous choice to take this at either the academic or the applied level. So starting in September, all of our students will be taking that at the academic level. And in fact, the province is moving in this same direction as us, and they're working away at revising the curriculum for grade 9, and then they'll move into grade 10 as well. Starting in September, there will be a brand new grade 9 math course for all students in the province, and this does represent one that is de-streamed. So it's just one math course, the end with that. One of the important things, and it comes up time and time again, is, well, how do I make my course selections? And Dr. Rawlings has previously alluded to this process, but what we're going to do is play a quick video for you to see, and then I'm going to speak to that video on the other end of it. So Renee, if you don't mind hitting play.
Hello, and welcome to the My Blueprint course selection video series. In this video, we are going to show you how a grade 8 student with TDSB will complete their course selections. Start by visiting www.tdsb.on.ca/find-your/school. Select by address. Enter your street name. Note, you will not need to add your full address, simply the street name. Click Search. This will display your destination secondary school. If you are looking to apply for a specialized program, you may also locate your secondary school by searching using the By Program option. Upon determining your destination secondary school, simply visit www.myblueprint.ca/TDSB. Click the green School Account Login button and enter your TDSB credentials to log into your My Blueprint account. Upon login, simply click High School from the left-hand navigation menu. Click Add Plan and select your destination high school from the drop-down menu. Once course selection is open for TDSB students, upon login, students will see the course selection steps appear at the top of their high school grid. Step 1 is to add courses. Click either a subject name or the Add Course button to begin exploring opportunities within that school. Click Add Course to add this to your plan. TDSB students entering grade 9 are expected to select 8 total courses plus 2 alternate courses. Once your student has added all of the courses to their plan, click the blue Review Course Selections button. Step 2 is to officially review the selections. Once the review is complete, select Submit Selections. Upon submission, students are notified of a successful submission to their destination secondary school. Once students have submitted their selections, they may wish to return to the high school plan. Students will notice that the course selection checklist now displays the submission date and time. Students are no longer able to make adjustments to the submitted courses. If changes are needed, students will need to speak to their classroom teacher. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or concerns surrounding My Blueprint, please speak with your student's teacher or email us at support@myblueprint.ca.
So Renee, if we can just move just to the next slide. I'm just going to speak to my blueprint and that
Hello,
process.
and welcome to the My Blueprint.
Sorry about that. So at your grade 8 school, you will be with your class or through a virtual session. Students will be provided an opportunity to investigate my blueprint and to try to navigate. Right now, you can go in and you can play around with it. But some of the questions that have come up is, my login is not valid, or it says I can't submit courses at this time. And that's correct. You cannot submit anything. It won't be open up for that part of the process until January. So don't be worried about that end of things, because you will in fact have that opportunity to do a submission once we open it up for you. But you can go in and you can investigate. If you're having trouble with your login, your child needs their TDSB email address and their password in order to go onto my blueprint /TDSB. So at this point right now, if you're having trouble, and again, that has come up a number of times in questions, please speak with your child's school, because if your child is able to get into their TDSB account in the usual way, then they should also be able to get into my blueprint. And the school, your grade 8 school, should be able to help you with that. I did want to move on to talk a little bit about special education. And through special education, we have a couple of different categories that we take a look at things. We have the formal identification of students, and that would have been made through a formal IPRC process. Those would include students who have a learning disability, students who are gifted, students who are designated as having a developmental disability. So those would be the formal categories. We also have students who informally are receiving special education support. And that would be, say, for example, informally through an IEP in the grade 8 school. The process for the formal and the informal work a little bit differently. So if your child currently has a formal identification, in the spring there will be the IPRC review, and with that review comes an offer of placement at a particular school. This process, more likely than not, is going to take place outside of all the other deadlines and timelines that have been set up for all the regular and specialized programs. So number one, I need you not to worry about the fact that it's taking place after the fact. So for example, if you make a decision to attend your homeschool, and then through the IPRC review process, you decide, you know what, I'm going to take the placement at the gifted school, which is determined by your residential address, then you can make that decision after the fact. So those placements come after the early spring deadlines take place, and then you can make a decision. Just because you're offered a placement doesn't mean that you have to take that placement, but you do need to be aware that if you're offered a placement and you decide to turn it down, in order to re-enter a special education specific program such as gifted, you would have to go back to an IPRC review and be re-offered that position. I want to speak specifically also about our developmental disability programs at secondary school. This can be, quite a transition for our young people who are in grade 8 DD programs moving into the high school. And I also know that it's a time for a lot of parents to be feeling, nervous and perhaps even a little bit worried because it's such a big and large school. I want to reassure you that at the secondary level, our DD programs are very consistent with the type of support that your child is currently receiving at the elementary level. We have dedicated classrooms and dedicated staff. for our developmental disability students at the secondary level. And we try everything that we can do to also offer an integration into the regular part of the school that takes place. And this may mean, participating in the bigger gymnasium. It may include coming to special assemblies, etc. One of the things that I would say that are spaces that are available in developmental disability are determined based on the number of students who are graduating from the program, and then that opens up space for others to come in. So in terms of the DD programs, we look more at the learning center area rather than your residential address. So you'll be in the general vicinity. So if you're currently in Learning Center 4, there would be a Learning Center for secondary school that would be a destination school. You absolutely can speak with your current special education teacher and find out what is the typical pathway for students in the grade 8 school to move on to the grade 9 school for DD programs. And you also can phone to the secondary school and ask to speak to one of the teachers in the DD program so that you can better understand as a parent the sorts of programming and supports that are in the school for your child. This is a really important thing for us at secondary, and we want to make sure that that transition is just absolutely smooth. In terms of physically handicapped programs, the offer of placement, of course, would go to a school that has a barrier-free designation, and that's so that our students who have a physical handicap are not in any way facing physical barriers to getting to class, and that would include stairs, etc. So that process takes place independent of the overall application to high school process. And your special education teacher is the key individual to be speaking with and speaking to the special education department at the high school as well. For any of our students who currently are receiving support through an IEP in grade 8, but don't have a formal designation, your IEP follows with you to grade 9 as part of your review process that will take place. And your grade 8 teacher is going to recommend some things. They may feel that you've outgrown your IEP, and so they may recommend that you don't need that anymore. And then we at the secondary level receive that information, and we make sure we know who you are and how we're going to support you in the transition to high school. We have academic supports for all of our grade 9 students, and those academic supports come by way of our student success team, which every school has, our special education department, which every school has, as well as our guidance staff who take care of student well-being as well. It may be recommended by your grade 8 teacher that you receive, in addition to those usual supports, a little bit extra support. And in those cases, we enroll a student into what is called a learning strategies course. And this is something that we would want the family to speak with the secondary school guidance department about, because they will assist in ensuring that you get enrolled, or your child gets enrolled into a learning strategies course. It's really important for the students who have been identified with a specific special education identification, and the non-identified students as part of the process of that review of the IEP that takes place later in the year, that you talk about those needs of support so that the information in fact does make its way to the secondary school come September. If we can move on to the next slide, Renee. A couple of things I wanted to talk to our grade 8 students who are with us tonight and their parents and guardians who are here tonight is just what to expect when you get to high school. And the perspective is different whether you're the student or whether you're the parent of the student. So for you as students, you're going to notice that suddenly you are the youngest one in the school. You're no longer the oldest student. And you're also going to notice that the kids are quite old who are older than you. They look different. You also, depending on what school you go to, may realize that you don't know anybody, or you only know a couple of students. And so there's going to be some expected things that you're going to have to think about before you get into school, so that you can be successful once you get there. If you're making a choice, for example, to attend a specialized program in grade 9, and all your friends are going to a different school, one of the things that you need to be prepared for is your friend making skills. How are you going to reach out and have those social connections? Because the kids who are in your specialized school or specialized program may not live in the same neighborhood as you. And so you're going to have to establish those relationships as you navigate high school. A couple of other things for you as students that you need to realize is that you are going to be given a lot more freedom, because you're moving from a place of being, an adolescent, and throughout your time in high school to being a young adult. And with that freedom comes a lot of responsibility to be on time, to be responsible for yourself and for your actions, and being an advocate for yourself and speaking up for yourself. And so some of those things, it's important for you to consider prior to even starting high school. You need to kind of do a little visualization, and what is it going to feel like to walk through the doors of that school? And how am I going to find my first classroom? And how do I work a padlock for my locker? And these may seem insignificant, but if you take some time prior to actually starting in September, it will by far help you through that first week of school. For our parents and guardians who are here this evening, for you as a parent, you may already have a student who's in high school, and this may just be yet another transition for another child. But a couple of things that I would like to say is that we know that kids who are in high school don't really want to talk to their parents, and they really want you to stay on the sidelines and to keep out of their business. They want to have a go of it on their own. And what we as educators want to say to you is stay involved. It's really, really important that you continue to reach out to the school, that you continue to participate in parent-teacher conferences, that you ask your child on a regular basis, how are they doing? What did they do in school? What is your homework? There will be homework. They're going to tell you, no, we didn't have any homework. There's going to be homework. So keep those lines of communication open, even though the instinct on the part of the child going through their teen years is to keep you at arm's length. It does get better as they move out of grade 11 and into grade 12, and they're going to, want your counsel again. But we find that the more involved our parents are as partners with the school, the better outcome for the student overall. We can flag things to you that we see are going on, and likewise, you can flag it to us in terms of concerns that you might have. If we can move to the next slide. One of the big things that you're going to notice as grade 8 students is your day at school is going to look a lot different. And so you have before you 3 different types of timetables that could be in play for next year. We, of course, don't know what's happening with the pandemic and the vaccination process. So currently right now, the schedule on the bottom of the screen, the quadmester schedule, is what we have in place as a way to mitigate further spreading of coronavirus in schools. So we have students taking courses 2 at a time for 4 different quadmesters over the school year, ending up at the end of the school year with their 8 grade 9 courses. Most of our schools follow in regular times, follow a semestered format. And for the first semester, which is September till the end of January, 4 courses are taken, and that's it until the end of January. And then beginning of February, the second 4 courses would be taken. We do still have a number, probably, maybe 10 schools who follow a non-semestered format. And in this type of format, students take 8 courses from the beginning of September until the end of June. And they take 4 courses on one day. They take a different 4 courses the next day. And then they keep alternating that from day to day. And at the end of the year, of course, they would end up with their 8 courses. And again, we don't know what things will look like next year, and you will find out more at the open houses or on the school websites that you're interested in attending, but it could be any one of these scenarios. If we can move to the next slide, please. I wanted to talk a little bit about September 2021 and what is it going to look like in our high schools. None of us at this point know the continued trajectory of the pandemic and the infection rate in the province. And a decision has not yet been made about how school will be delivered at the high school level for September 2021. And so it's really important for you and your child who is moving into grade 8 to talk about what the various scenarios could be. If it's to model what's currently going on, there would be the opportunity to go to classes. And at the secondary level right now, students attend in the morning and then in the afternoon, they have online learning. So that's what's taking place in the quadmester format. And that's what it would look like for next year if that's to continue. There's also right now, because of the vast number of kids who wanted to attend secondary virtual school, they've had to move to a hybrid model as well. And in that hybrid model right now in Quad 2, we have some students who are in class being taught, and at the same time, simultaneously, students are at home learning from the classroom teacher from the bricks and mortar school. We also have students who are completely in virtual school, and they have different teachers, different principals and vice principals, etc. And that is being handled through the virtual school itself. We should know by the spring, I would think early March, what the direction will be for September so that schools can be prepared for that teaching. But it is important for you as parents and guardians to talk with your child through this transition, because if you already have a child who's gone through high school, it's not going to look the same potentially. There might be differences, and you need to have that conversation in advance so that there's mental preparation going on for the child. One of the things that we know here in Toronto, but throughout the world, that the pandemic has caused a crisis in student social, emotional, and mental health needs. And it is important for you as a parent to know that that's going on one level, and then they have this other thing on top of it being going to high school. And for some of your kids, they may be putting on a brave face, but a lot of them are really, really stressing about it. And it's important for you to do a check-in with your child and just say, easy questions, how are you feeling about, heading into high school next year? It just needs to be something as simple as that, but we really want to encourage you to keep those lines of communications open, knowing that we do know that it has been a significant struggle. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is just the transition from grade 9 to grade 9 from the various places your child might currently be receiving education. Your child could be in an elementary virtual school. They could be in a bricks and mortar school. They could be in a bricks and mortar hybrid situation, or they could be homeschooled by yourself or as part of a community pod. And it again, as a parent, it's really important for you in preparing your child is to take a look at, that transition from where they currently are to where they're going to. and what sorts of things do you need as a family to do to support your child in that change and in that shift. One of the things that we've heard a lot from parents is the worry about the gaps in education that have taken place because we lost part of grade 7 last year because of the lockdown of the schools. And now there has been disrupted learning for many of our grade 8 students, either because they've been sent home because of needing to quarantine because someone in the school has tested positive, or they're learning from home and perhaps don't have the strongest internet. I want to reassure you that as a board, we are completely aware of the gaps that are taking place, and we're working in the background to ensure when your child arrives to high school that we spend the time that we need to spend so that we can do some catch up with your child. So I don't want you to think that we're not aware. We are very, very aware, and we're working really hard to sort out what's the best approach so that we can bring everybody to the same spot so that everyone has every opportunity to be successful. But we need you as parents also to consider the things that I'm speaking about in terms of the pandemic and how you can prepare and support your child in that transition itself. It's a pretty big deal. A lot of kids are probably already have some butterflies in their stomach, just trying to figure out, where they want to go. And then we have these other things on top of it. So I wanted to make sure that, we include that as part of the transition preparation for grade 9. If we can move on to the next slide. One question that's come up time and time again is what happens if my child changes their mind about their admission at a particular school? So say, for example, you made a decision not to follow through with your French immersion pathway, and you decided you were going to go into your homeschool by address. It's not so easy, depending on the program, to make a shift back. And in some cases, it may not be possible at all. So it is really important that you find, for the students who are on the call, find the school that you can see yourself graduating from. And it needs to be a school that's going to support your learning style, that it's going to support the things that you want to do extracurricularly, and that you can see yourself fitting into and being in stride when you get there. That is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if, I know there's a ranking system of schools that exist. That is really, really irrelevant. And while we have what we call specialized programs, I need and want you to know that the school that's in your neighborhood at the end of your street is providing excellent education and may in fact be the best choice for your child, and that you give that full consideration. If you are making a decision about accepting admission elsewhere, you need to be aware that because of the way we have to provide staffing for schools, once you make that decision, you're going to have to, in most cases, stay with that decision for the duration of the school year. There may be some extenuating circumstances that you could speak with your grade 8 principal with, who can reach out to the grade 9 schools if something like this should take place, because we certainly don't want a grade 8 student to be miserable in their grade 9 experience. And if we can move on once again, Renee, and I'm going to pass it back to you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Georgia. Okay, so we're going to talk about some important dates. So families, you would have received this timeline or checklist in our November 4th communication to you. However, let's go over these dates again so you can kind of see the big picture of your grade 8 to 9 transition. Between November and December, you might have already or will be attending your elementary school virtual transition event. And this could look very different from school to school. I know that elementary principals are connecting with families, providing you with information, and so that will happen until we go for holidays. and some might even do it when we return. Between November and January, you'll be attending the open houses for the secondary schools. And many of you would have already attended some of the virtual open houses that the schools have held. And for many of the schools, they have also offered pre-recorded sessions or recordings of their live open house. So you can take a look at that as well, so that you get some more information about the school, hear from staff, hear from students. And although you aren't able to actually go into the building, they'll give you an opportunity to kind of see what the building looks like and what programs, extracurricular activities they have at the school. Also, between November and January, the specialized programs have some additional entrance requirements, which we covered earlier. So please, as I said before, visit the school's website or contact the school to find out what those entry requirements are. Some of those deadlines have already passed, but some are still coming up. On January 11th, course selection opens up for grade 8 students, and it continues until February 26th. On January 29th, that's when all the optional attendance forms are due at the secondary school. And as we mentioned before, you can take them yourself, or your elementary principal, who does have to sign it for you, can send it on your behalf. This year, we are accepting fax, scanned, and emailed optional attendance forms. On February 12th is the deadline that you will hear about the status of your optional attendance application. And so, of course, as we mentioned before, and I saw in some of the questions, in my blueprint, when course selection opens on January 11th, you can select courses for your home school, so that school that is designated based on your address, and you can select courses for all the schools you apply to under optional attendance. And that way, when February 26th comes around, you've already selected courses. And whichever school you accept your optional attendance offer from, that set of courses will become potentially your timetable. All right, so who do you contact if you have questions? So all of your child's teachers, vice principals, our secondary guidance counselors, specialized program coordinators, we are all here to help and support your child through this exciting transition. I remember, even though it was ages ago, how excited I was in grade 8 to go to grade 9, to be going to high school. It was an exciting time, but there were a lot of questions. And so, of course, all of us are here to support. However, if you have specific questions about a specialized program or specialized school, please contact that high school. They're in the best position to answer your questions in detail. If you have questions about my blueprint or course selection, please contact your grade 8 school. This could be your grade 8 teacher or the principal. If you have questions about special education offers of placement, connect with your grade 8 school. And if you have questions about the special education or additional academic supports that are available in the high school that your child might be attending, please contact that high school, and they can share with you all the amazing things they do in their special education department, their student success department, and all the academic and professional support services that they have at their school. So here are some resources for you, some web resources. The Beyond 8 website is our website that has all the information about grade 8 to 9 transitions. So you can see the link on the screen. You would have also received this link in your communication that you received on November 4th. The video that we showed earlier on how to do course selection, the link is on the screen. That's that My Blueprint video that was made specifically for our TDSB grade 8 students that shows you how to log in and how to select courses. If you guys have any additional questions, please, as I mentioned before, connect with your grade 8 school. And also, of course, our secondary counselors have been diligently answering your questions in the Q&A. So thank you, and they'll continue to do that. But before we end, I'm going to pass it over to our Associate Director, Andrew Gold, who is going to bring some closing remarks this evening.
Thank you, Renee. I was actually supposed to bring opening remarks, and I thank you for your patience. I was in a board meeting that went a little longer than expected. I want to, first of all, start by saying thank you to Georgia and Renee for organizing not just this opportunity. There's 4 of these sessions, and we also recently did a post-secondary information evening. And one of the things that's been amazing about working with this team is that as times have changed because of the pandemic and because practices can improve, their innovation, creativity, and hard work has benefited thousands and thousands of students as well as staff that they're supporting. So I want to start saying thank you to the both of them, as well as to the team that has worked with them, arranging for interpreters, having the technology available to do this, and to the staff from all the different schools who have logged on and others who are helping answer questions. To our audience tonight, our parents and students, I was a secondary vice principal and principal for many years. And one of the most exciting times of year for me was when we welcomed grade 8 students into our building and their families as they prepare to enter high school and make some important decisions. And I remember from that work that this was a time of excitement, but also a time of anxiety. Things were going to change. And I recognize that for this year's grade 8 students and parents, that there's been a lot of change in the last 9 months, separate of this important decision. And so my key message to you today is that your teachers, principals, guidance staff are here to support you, as well as central staff that are organizing opportunities like this. At the start of this process, it might sometimes feel a little daunting. Just pick up the phone, send an email, organize a meeting so that the adults and student leaders who are here to support you at this interesting but challenging time may do so. And months from now, I know you will look back on this time as the wonderful journey that it's supposed to be, even if it doesn't feel that way at every moment along the way. So thank you again to our team, and thank you to those of you who have taken time to attend this evening.
Thank you, Andrew. And so with that, everyone, we will let you reclaim your evening. Thank you, secondary counselors. I'll see you in 15 minutes for our second session this evening. And to all the other panelists and presenters, I'll see you in 15 minutes. And to our families, have a wonderful evening.
One other thing, we will be posting a video of tonight's presentation on the TDSB guidance website. Please keep an eye out. A number of you have asked that question. So it will be available to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a great night, everybody. And for those of us who are presenting at 7:30, see you in 15 minutes.